Points of Change. Podcast Accenture. Szukaj w Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast i wszędzie tam, gdzie słuchasz swoich podcastów.
Accenture's culture of equality ensures that the company is in a place where everyone feels they belong and can succeed. It also includes special attention to truly human and mental health topics. How to approach mental health issues. What happens when we ignore them? How companies support their employees when it comes to mental health? And how can a company be truly human? We're going to discuss these aspects in this episode, talking to the person at the forefront of mental health initiatives at Accenture. My name is Chris Kobolецki, and my guest is Magda Klima, Client Experience Integration Associate Manager and Mental Health Program Coordinator at Accenture in Poland.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. And I'm happy that so many of you are attending this Mental Health Ally online training.
Hey, Alex. I think I speak for the whole group if I say that we appreciate you taking the time to deliver this session.
It's my pleasure. Mental health is very important. So, the first part of the training is going to be about self-care, and the second on how to be a great mental health ally.
Awesome. Where do we start?
Have you ever flown in a plane? Please answer in chat. I see many of you writing that you have. So, you know that after you enter the plane, the flight crew gives you instructions in case of emergency. It's all very important, but do you know what I find the most crucial part?
Where the vests are?
Pretty close. I think the most important part is when they tell you that you should put your oxygen mask first before helping others. Do you know why?
Because if I'm unconscious, I'm not going to be able to help anyone?
Exactly. It's similar with mental health. If you are not in a good condition, it's very unlikely you'd have mental capacity to help anyone else.
When I'm down, I don't feel like doing anything, let alone helping others.
But you have to know that it's fine feeling down from time to time. It's a normal human reaction. The problem starts if it's constant. What do you do when you have to dig yourself out of a hole?
Oh, and I love to take a long warm bath. I put candles all around and I get lost in a good book.
Does it help?
Most of the times. Depends how dire the situation is.
What about the others? How do you cope when you are down?
Oh, I love to go for a run. It helps me take my mind off of problems and focus on the moment.
I do that by meditating. And the funny thing is that I didn't like meditating at first, but then I discovered guided meditation, and it works wonders for me.
Do you attend some online meditation sessions?
No, I have an app for that. I just switch it on and relax.
These methods are great stress relievers indeed. What about other issues? Anyone having back pains?
Unfortunately. But what can we do if most of our work is done in front of a computer?
I had back pains, and running helped a bit. But a standing desk was a real game changer for me.
Ah, yes, a standing desk is a great solution. There are also these big rubber balls you can sit on. And if that's not an option, sign up for the yoga classes. They are hosted online by some of your colleagues.
I think I'm actually going to try some of your methods.
Hi, Magda. Today I'm talking with Magda Klima. Could you elaborate what does this role include and what is your job? What do you do at Accenture?
So I am leading the mental health initiatives in Accenture in Poland. My role is to spread the awareness, destigmatize the issue that surrounds mental health, and also grow a network of mental health allies. Those allies are trained people that are able to recognize the first symptoms of mental health conditions and are trained in terms of signposting to the right help. As a part of that role, I have also been sent to Dublin and I have went through mental health first aid training. The training has been delivered by St. John of God It is a clinical hospital, a teaching hospital. And firstly, I went through the training, how to be an aider, right? So how can I recognize and how should I be acting if I see somebody is in emotional crisis? And latter part of the training was focusing on to become an instructor. So I can now deliver a training that would teach people how to recognize symptoms and how to act properly.
Is this your honorary role at Accenture, or is this your full-time job at Accenture, or is there something else also?
No, it is not my full-time job. I just do it because I'm passionate about the subject. In my day-to-day job, I'm a project manager. I'm specializing in transitioning work from the client location to Accenture offices around the world.
So you combine two worlds together, but I guess mental health is a passion for you for a long time, and you seem to be really knowledgeable in the topic and really involved in the topic. In this conversation, we're going to talk a lot about mental health, and I feel like we should make some sort of a disclaimer at the very beginning. For example, something about where to look for help if needed. Magda, would you phrase such a disclaimer?
I agree with you. We need to start with putting a first disclaimer. That is going to be an open conversation about mental health and the disorders. And with the first point that I just wanted to start with is that I know that many people are not looking actively for help. They are not seeking any professional support. There are lots of reasons why it's not happening. And people might be afraid of the stigma, they are afraid of the myths surrounding the whole mental health conditions, and lots of misconceptions all around. I wanted to make also clear that early intervention will help to prevent any problems from becoming more serious, and it will help to reduce any secondary effects. That means that the problem will not become more severe. The longer people will wait in getting help and seeking for support, the more difficult their recovery will be and more severe the secondary effects will be. If you know about someone, or even if it's you, who is struggling with any mental health problem, just be conscious of two things. There are people that can help you, there are professionals, and every condition, if treated appropriately, can be treated. The best resources you can reach out to is firstly general practitioners. So it is a first contact doctor. Everyone should be just making a first clinical contact to make sure that from the medical perspective, we are all fine. We can always reach out to psychiatrists, therapists for any counseling or medication if that would be a decision. There are lots of support groups available online. Lots of online resources, helplines, such as Ithaca helpline. There are also lots of materials that everyone can go through. Mental Health Institute of Police Psychology. There are lots of sources, communities, chats that everyone can leverage. And most importantly, we can always leverage the family and friend support system. Those people will always be there for us in case we want to have any sort of discussion surrounding mental health conditions.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. Could you tell us more why mental health is such an important topic?
I do feel that we need to start talking about mental health openly and without judgmental. It's because it affects everyone. It affects everyone in the population. It affects your family and your friends. And by talking openly and without any judgments, we are able to break down the stigma, to make sure that this is not a taboo topic, and to encourage people to speak up. Look for help. There are plenty of resources and people ready to help you.
Mental health is also a topic which is, I think, not that many people are aware this kind of problem exists, mental health, and not many people actually keep their hygiene when it comes to mental health. When we have problems with our health, we know exactly what's happening. Like, oh, I have a headache or my tummy aches, and then I can go and speak to the doctor. But then when it comes to the mental health, sometimes we don't even realize that we are affected by a mental health problem, right? Maybe I'm feeling sad or something is wrong inside of my head, and I don't necessarily know what to do, right? As it turns out, 92% of workers in the UK are in some way affected by a mental health problem, either by experiencing them directly themselves or having someone in their surrounding having those kind of problems. And that is a lot of people. 92% of a country, that's like almost the entire country is experiencing a mental health problem. Why do you think this number is so high? And you also talked about like mental health is a global problem.
I think you nailed it. I think you said something that I'm always repeating to people. Everyone is having mental health. There is no mental health and separately from physical health. We need to be looking at that holistically. And you've mentioned you have a toothache, you broke your leg, you go to the doctor. Why don't we do it when it comes to our mental health struggles? Why don't we seek for help? Well, and you've quoted rightfully a very high statistic, and I truly believe that statistic is even higher because not everyone is reporting the mental health issues. But the answer is not as simple as I could provide you. It is about personal experiences. There might be some trauma, some abuse, some alcohol abuse, drug abuse. It might something happened in our relationship, in our private or professional life. And there is also another aspect that we need to also consider, which is the impact of the social media. This is also something that is contributing, especially in young adults, to deteriorating mental health conditions.
That's true. Like, I think mental health problems are all around us in our days, and we might not even realize that there is something there. I don't think there necessarily has to be drama in someone's life for the mental health problem to arise. And I think everyone should keep safe, especially when it comes to the mental health. And this is something that you definitely have to take care of. And we're going to talk about like different ways to take care of your mental health. But can you tell us what kind of consequences can mental health problems bring for an individual?
Well, I think to put it very simple, we might just not be enjoying the life. We might not be happy anymore. And because of that, all the other things in our life might suffer, such as family or our relationships. Because of the not treated conditions, we tend to isolate, we tend to put people away and just not reaching out for help and not talking to them openly about what is happening. And I think the worst part of that is searching or self-medicating through tobacco use, alcohol, drugs. And what it will cause in our life is that it will have a cascading effect. It will have a cascading effect on your school. You will be missing out. You will be getting worse grades. And in terms of work, you will be performing worse than before. You might be even missing some days at work, and that will all end up in a very severe legal or even financial issues that you might end up with.
Mental health is something that it's hard to observe, especially like if you're looking only at yourself and trying to analyze what's happening to you. I think it's rather hard to do. I mean, it's both easy and hard in the sense that you have to be aware that those kind of problems exist in general in order to be able to even spot them personally. And then such simple tools as tracking like your mood throughout the day already gives you data points, and then you can assess different things. But this is personal mental health. You're working at Accenture. I'm working at Innovation Nest. Those are companies. How about companies? What can happen when a company's employees are affected by mental health issues?
I think that business just needs to realize the implications of mental health issues in terms of economics even. I think it has been estimated globally that we lose over 80 million of working days annually globally because of the mental health issues. And that will translate into a severe economic impact. It has been estimated over $2 trillion that is a loss because of the medical bills, social charges, or any other indirect charges. And therefore, Accenture is already on a journey for several years to make sure that we are creating a work environment when we are openly talking about that, when we are developing the programs that will support our employees and make sure that all the needs are being addressed and talked openly about them.
We're living in the 21st century, and there are ways to solve so many problems which are surrounding us. But every generation throughout the history of humankind had their own problems. And it seems that mental health problem is something that has been everlasting in our society. But living in the 21st century, and I think 20th century already had a huge impact regarding this. We're living in the age of technology. So almost everyone, I think everyone has a smartphone. We're talking over internet right now. We're surrounded by news. We have constant access to more information and so on. You've already mentioned the impact of social media, but how does technology affect our mental health?
I think that technology, social media, it's a double-edged sword. It's because open your browser, you are just one click away from the amazing source of information about mental health conditions, about all the sorts of help that is available. People can go on and look for the support groups. They can openly talk about them if they not feel confident by opening up in person to a coworker, to a family. They can do it more anonymously. You've mentioned the apps. Even myself, I have plenty of apps that just help me to make sure that I practice mindfulness, that I do meditation. And also, I think it's just a general great source of information that we are privy to. But there is another spectrum that I think we need to consider as well. And I think that impact of the technology and the social media is most apparent in the young adults. I think, Chris, you've most certainly heard about the cases of young people committing suicide because of the cyberbullying.
Yeah, of course.
It is a real issue. And also what I wanted to say, maybe it's not a popular opinion, but the influencers showing their life on the Instagram, so beautiful, young mothers having beautiful makeup and the child so pretty and nice and just general great parenthood. And on the other side of the monitors, it's a young woman barely coping, not just needing help and support. And she sees all those pictures, beautiful. She compares her life, and what it will end up with is a depression, or postnatal depression even. And interestingly enough, when I was researching the impact of social media and technology on the mental health, I've read a study that for some time now, the therapies, especially the psychologists, are increasingly reporting the spikes in the cases needing counseling of the people that have lost their followers on Instagram.
Wow. All right.
I mean, that sounds crazy, right?
21st century. Welcome. But I guess you kind of mentioned this, but there's also an upside to having technology because there are all sorts of different apps that allow people to track their mental health or allow them to do guided meditation, which is a huge boost in order to take care of your mental health. Or they're able to connect you to a specialist. So technology has a huge upside. What do you think about this?
Correct. You are getting help real time at the time that you need. So there are apps that it is artificial intelligence, yes. However, if the artificial intelligence will detect that there is a serious need of the conversation, then they will lead you and direct you to the specialist. So it is all very helpful to make that very first step. And again, you're getting the help right at the spot.
In 2020, we were hit by a global pandemic. We went into a lockdown where suddenly the interactions with the external world were limited to the very minimum. On one hand, that was a really good thing because you could sit in your home, you could start reflecting and starting to work on yourself, right? But then on another hand, that caused loads of problems, loads of social problems. How did this affect mental health, in your opinion?
Well, I just want to start with that in one of the training, we've asked the participants, Accenture employees, anonymously to respond to the question, how do they feel now? What emotions are, what are they going through in terms of the pandemic and isolation? And of course, there were answers about, I'm worried about myself, I'm worried about my family, I worry about a job, I worry just in general that something bad will happen. They are isolated, they are lacking social interaction, human contact, face-to-face contact. And the most frequent answer was anxiety. So just a fear of uncertainty, not knowing what is going to happen, it has impacted people in that manner.
Yeah, I think also like it's brought up loads of problems. So it was heaven for introverts, but hell for extroverts, I think. And like especially lots of different industries did change through to that, and jobs that typically require people to just meet and have a human-to-human interaction, such as teachers and things like this.
And add to that, your office is your home, right? I have a dog that is barking and I'm in an important call. I have postmen that are, just knocking on my door. People are just going through the flat. So it's really also hard for me in terms of where does my personal space begins and where is my sort of work or office related activities? Where do they start? And how is it possible that it's all now combined in one?
That's true. Like basic hygiene of work versus your personal life. That is really super important for your head.
Alex, thanks for taking the time to talk to me individually after the training.
Sure. How can I help you?
I had a colleague approach me and share their problems with me.
And what did you do?
It was tough. I didn't know how to behave at first.
Was it someone close?
Yes, but it didn't make it any easier.
Of course it didn't. Mental health is fragile, and you're usually not equipped with how to handle situations like that.
That's so true.
First of all, you need to know you are not a therapist, and you don't have to try to be one. This means you shouldn't try to diagnose them, nor tell them what would be good for them.
What should I do then?
First of all, listen. It's simple and hard at the same time.
How so?
Have you ever thought about what to say next when someone's talking to you?
Well, yeah.
That's not a good tactic if you want to truly listen.
That's good advice. Should I also ensure them that this conversation is confidential?
Yes, good thinking. And since you're not a therapist, you can also signpost them in the direction to support.
We have a helpline, right?
Yes, we have a helpline for people that need mental health assistance.
Okay, noted.
Also, remember that these people need similar things that you need when you are down. We all should take care of our physical energy, mental focus, sense of belonging, and sense of purpose. If any of these are out of balance, it can create mental health issues.
I'll remember that.
But the topic of the episode is truly human, and we've been talking about mental health until now. What does it mean? What does it mean truly human, according to you, according to Accenture?
Truly Human is an initiative, a program that expresses and focuses on the commitment to deeply care about our people, foster the environment to help them achieve their aspirations, their ambitions, to become their best selves, both professionally and personally. Similarly, like mental health, we need to look at Truly Human from the very holistic perspective. So we are focusing on body, mind, heart, and soul. It is a concept that we need to all be taking care of our well-being that will prevent any of the mental health issues, or minimalize that, of course, and to not end up in a very dangerous situation leading to a burnout.
Accenture CEO Julie Sweet said, "You can only have a culture of equality if you start with the belief that diversity matters. That is not only the right thing to do, but it is also an important part of the business." Indeed, it is the right thing to do. No questions here. But why is it an important part of the business?
Well, multiple studies have already been conducted, and it has been proven that by treating people equally and by including everyone, companies can enjoy better cash flow, bigger revenue, and not to mention better retention. It all has to do with the fact that people are just much more motivated when they feel accepted and appreciated. Their productivity will boost, and all of that will translate into the better financial results of the companies that successfully deploy inclusion and diversity programs.
This is an important topic, the diversity and inclusion, and also like building a culture of inclusivity in general. How do you guys do it? How does it work at Accenture when it comes to building a culture that encourages equality?
So it is very important to Accenture. We are building awareness through different events and programs. Inclusion and diversity, it is just one of our strategic priorities, where we promote and support different communities such as LGBTQ. We are respecting them and maintaining the equality between men and women. We are very mindful and respectful of different cultural diversities, and also adjusting the workplace for people with any disabilities and as per their needs. All in all, we believe that equality equals innovation, and this is and the diversity makes us stronger. It is about creating the environment that you don't need to spend too much energy on hiding who you are.
This kind of connects into like providing diversity and inclusion. Everyone is equal and having the possibility of being yourself within a company. But how does it work with mental health? Are there any different things that you guys do for mental health, or that's one of your key initiatives, just making sure that everyone can be themselves?
So we have a series of initiatives and events. Since we have moved to completely online environments, we are hosting regular online yoga sessions, mindfulness sessions, plenty of them as well. We are also launching campaigns that are boosting and encouraging people to talk to each other, to make sure that there is still a personal contact, more together now. So that was a campaign during the pandemic that encouraged that human contact. There is a Thriving Minds course that is talking a lot about stress. So what stress does to us from the chemical aspect, and what are the strategies that every one of us can introduce into our daily life. There is always an open mental health ally training. Again, just creating and making sure that we are training more and more people to be the signposts, ambassadors, and advocates of the program. And there's also mental health circle. So circle, this is something like Facebook page in Accenture world, where we post all the informations. We refer to interesting reads, magazines, websites to deepen the knowledge.
Magda, as a mental health lead, what kind of stories do you have? What happens at Accenture to a mental health lead?
I am quite a recognizable person because I speak about mental health programs, so people know my name. It did happen one time that that a person referred to me, a colleague that was going through the mental health crisis. I didn't know the person didn't know me, so it was unfamiliar ground for me as well. So what I did is I made sure that we have a quiet room and comfortable space where we could talk. So I brought the person to the room, and instead of sitting across of the table, which might sound a little bit of aggressive because it imposes an eye contact, I sat next to a person. I was very mindful of my body language. I asked the questions to understand what is happening, and I listened non-judgmentally. It was a particularly difficult conversation for me because the person in the middle of the conversation broke down in tears. So from the conversation that we were having, I understood that he was suffering from depression. It has been already diagnosed. He received the treatment. So I immediately knew that it is a serious situation, and I had to immediately extend the help and make sure that the person is reaching appropriate support. So after my conversation, I just left my cell phone and I left the person to make a call to Employee Assistance Program. It is a counseling helpline. After the conversation, I checked in to understand what was the resolution, what are the next steps. And we kept contact even after the conversation. So I know that the person received the help. He was immediately referred to a specialist that treats such cases. And I know that the person got enrolled into the therapeutic center. So it was a very difficult conversation, but I knew that it had to be immediately treated.
That seems to be a good culture where you can actually openly talk about all sorts of different things. I remember at my company where I do work, we're working under tremendous stress. And I remember it was 2019, we worked like a school to say. So you start was tremendous. Then until Christmas, and then you go in until the summer. So after summer, I felt super not motivated to work, and I didn't have any energy energy to do my things. Yet the amount of problems and issues just kept rising, and the amount of stress that I was under. So I made a decision personally to take off 7 weeks. I decided to take a short sabbatical to actually like sit back and start to reflecting about what am I doing, where am I going, and things like this. What, in your opinion, are the ways a person can practice self-care?
Chris, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's not always easy, so I very much appreciate that. And I think we just need to be aware of ourselves and be aware of a certain habits or behaviors that we start to develop. In any case, we need to always look at ourselves holistically as well. It is not just about what is inside of us, but it's also about taking care of our body. Regular exercise, regular boost of endorphins, dopamines. We are what we eat. So eating healthy, getting the relevant nutrition, it will boost our energy. It is about sleep. Sleeping hygiene, very important. It reduces just a stress hormone. I'm not sure if in your case, if you had enough sleep or it was a good quality of sleep, but definitely this is something that is key to positive well-being. You've mentioned meditation. So this is another aspect, a little bit of a soul searching and be quiet with yourself and just stopping the rush of the thoughts and the emotions, just being here and there and enjoying the flower when you're on the walk.
There's actually, I think it's super hard for loads of people in 21st century to just be with themselves and be quiet with themselves. I have loads of friends where we talk about meditation and other things, then it's super hard for them to sit and do nothing for 10 minutes. They would say, I myself was talking for ages that, cooking for me is like meditation. It's not. It's a completely different process. Okay, you're quiet and you're focused, you're mindful of the activity that you're doing, but it's completely different from being mindful of yourself and allowing your thoughts to actually flow through your head. I'm wondering about you, like what made you start thinking about mental health?
I think I completely relate to what you were saying. It was for me very difficult to switch off. I tried meditation. I couldn't. I was thinking about meditating. When I was meditating, it was just utterly without any sense. Generally, I just can't switch off. When I lie in bed, I just think about things and the things that I didn't do, the things that I could have done better. And that in all just translates into poor habits, poor eating habits, poor sleeping habits. I found myself in a situation when I was a little bit afraid of my own health. So I did recognize that I am reaching to a certain point that it might be difficult to get me to go back to. So I think the best thing that I did was I opened up to my supervisor. I'm very lucky that I have very caring manager. She told me about the mental health program. She started to bring it to Poland, and when we talked about my mental health, she thought it's brilliant if I get involved, and that truly helped me in opening up. It was very hard for me to talk even to anyone, let alone to my supervisor. And by talking about that, it helps me. It just helps me to say when something is not going well. I just say it, and then I need to think, why is it going wrong? What mistake have I done? Is it stress? I think it's a common misconception, Chris, a little bit about stress. I found it a fascinating subject from the chemical perspective as well, because stress is good, but temporary stress. Like you suffered for a very long period of time, pressure and stress, this is where it will get bad. And this is where you need to be careful. Don't let yourself go into such situation. Was it unrealistic expectation? Too big of a pressure? Too big of an ambition?
Yeah, like we're living in a society where you just constantly want to do more rather than acknowledging what you already have. And you have this living in the future. I think this is a disease that loads of people have. Loads of people are not living at the current and they're constantly thinking about like, oh, next week I'm going to do this. If I will get a raise, I will be able to do that. I only need X amount of whatever to do something amazing, right? Rather than taking the opportunity to grasp what's happening right now. Can you tell us like what are the ways to spot the early signs of mental health problems?
I don't think there is a golden rule per se. I think it's about knowing a person and understanding, has anything changed about him or her? Did the habits change? A person that was firstly very social and it's now isolating himself, not willing to have any social interaction. A person that was so active and now he or she quit all the activities and even maybe it's putting on weight. So any of the deviations from our regular routine, any even mood swings can indicate that. I'm not saying that the person is in an emotional or mental health crisis, but you just need to trust your gut. If your gut is telling you there is something wrong, then it is our responsibility to reach out to that person and understand, is it really something going on?
You've mentioned an important thing about getting outside of your routine, but I think having a routine in the very first place, this is also like a really important fact that everyone should implement, to have some sort of a routine. I mean, we're living in a world where only change is constant, but then on the other hand, it's good to do the same thing every day, right? There are simple things as, I don't know, to do your bed as a first thing, right? You already accomplished one thing. And this is a thing that was implemented by the US Army back in the 20th century. And that helped a lot to actually boost the moods of soldiers. And it helped, like I started doing it a couple of years ago. And I think it is an important part of the day. But then it comes a moment in your life where, okay, you're set out, you have your perfect morning routine or something like that. And then reality happens because there is an edge case scenario where your routine gets broken, right? It doesn't have to be an edge case. In reality, there's a simple thing as someone calling you, let's hang out tonight. And that thing turns out that you're not in bed at 10 p.m. as you planned, but you stay up until 1 a.m. And the next day you're just feeling worse because you didn't catch enough sleep. And then the snowball effect starts to take place. So I'm wondering, what do you do personally when it comes to your way of living, when it comes to building your own routine in order to take care of your mental health?
Because of the situation that my home is my office, I had to build a routine. So I had to segregate that from my personal life. So I do have a routine, right? I always try to have a break in the day. Just have a break, even go to the garden, just go for a quick walk, clear a head, practice mindfulness. I am in a very firm believer of self-care because, Chris, even at the aircraft, before you launch or before you take off, there is a flight attendant that's telling you, in whatever case, if their oxygen mask will fall, you firstly need to put on yourself before you are going to be helping others. So I'm a firm believer that if I will be helping people, if I will be trying to be a spokesman of those mental health values that I live by, I need to take care of myself as first one. So in order to do that, yes, I build the routine. I try to segregate my life and be very mindful of my work-life balance, because that was something that I struggled at the beginning of the pandemic, because that was the first time I had such a situation where I was forced to sit at home. So I had to build certain mechanisms, routines. And I believe what helped for me, I just put myself a boundaries, what I am capable and what I'm willing to do, and are those two matching?
How do you leave work when you're working at home? Just out of curiosity, because this is one of the hardest things.
Well, I'm lucky enough to have a separate room that I converted to my office.
Okay.
Before, I didn't have a separate workspace, so it was everyone just sitting around and too many of the voices and too much distraction going on. So by segregating and making sure that I create, even in my head, a space that is just for work, and when I leave it, I close my laptop. That's the time I actually close the door when leaving the building.
Mental health is absolutely important, and we've covered a lot of it when it comes to defining the problems and the ways of treating it. What materials could our listeners check to deepen their knowledge in the subject? Is there anything that you would like to recommend when it comes to a good read or a thing to see or an app to use or things like this?
Of course, I would definitely recommend the official websites in case you want to deepen your knowledge, conditions, treatments, how to recognize Polish mental health institution, psychological institution, global ones, World Health Organization. You will find all their statistics that I just quoted. I personally am a visual person, so I watch a lot of inspirational speakers. What really speaks to me the loudest is when person talks about their own experiences, and when I see the journey, how from such a bad situation, how it was possible that the person is now able to speak in such inspirational manner and just inspiring to deepen your knowledge, to ensure that you also are open to different views and opinions. But definitely the library is full of the books, of medical books. Recently, I was reading the book, I think it was called Blue Mondays. Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend the book to any of the listeners because there are, I think, different tastes and different needs. I believe the most frequent search term is depression when it comes to mental health illnesses. So definitely I would recommend TED Talks.
If I can have one thing to add to that, I would highly suggest and recommend to everyone to meditate this week, to have this challenge of meditating 10 minutes. What could we tell people entering the workforce? What kind of skills should they work on?
I know how terrifying it must be entering a workforce for the first time. I even remember myself how terrifying it was. Fresh graduate faced with so many responsibilities, so many tasks. And I believe certain things will only come with seniority and experience. The things and the mistakes that I did at the beginning, now I wouldn't repeat. I think it all starts with speaking up in an assertive manner whenever we know that certain tasks that were assigned to us are impossible to complete, unrealistic expectation, shuffling so many deadlines, so many priorities. I think it's all about reaching the point when you are able to assign what do I need to do as first. Instead of juggling everything at the same time, causing yourself a deep amount of stress, focus at one thing at a time. Understand what is that we need to do immediately. What can wait later? And what impact will it have if it will be left for another day? I think just referring to your story, putting yourself in a situation of not being able to meet everything or trying to meet and do everything that was tasked, you will just put yourself in a dangerous situation. So it is just about prioritization of your work, delegating even the work, which I know it's not always the easiest thing, shuffling the priorities, and also making sure that you are managing your work pace and time.
Is there anything else you would like to add about the mental health topic or truly human topic?
Well, I just think that it is incredibly important, not just the economics, right? Because we understand that it has economic burden on the companies, on the medical care and so on. But I just think it is so important to treat people equally and to deeply care about them. Leaders need to understand that it is people who make company success.
Thank you so much. Today I was talking to Magda Klima about mental health and truly human. Thank you so much, Magda.
Thank you so much, Chris, for hosting the conversation. It was my pleasure.
Truly human companies are a very needed future of business. With more and more people falling victim to mental health issues, we have to start treating these issues more seriously. There is no doubt about that. Employees that are taken care of, rested, and in a good health condition are the foundation of successful companies. And it is these very employees that have the power to bring change in how we treat mental health. If you would like to join a company that already understands that, take a look at Accenture and see what they have to offer. Thanks for listening to this episode. Subscribe to the podcast Points of Change in your favorite podcast app to be notified of the new ones. Enjoy your day. Until the next time. Bye.